Earlier this month, the United States Army's 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One, named a road after Chattanooga native and Medal of Honor recipient Captain Larry Taylor on the base at Fort Riley in Kansas. This is the latest of many honors for Larry Taylor. Several of them have come after he passed away in late January of this year. Recently, I had a conversation with Dave Hill about this and many other topics. Dave and Larry Taylor were friends for a very long time. Dave Hill is the last surviving member of the 4-man LURP team who Taylor rescued in June of '68 in the combat action that would earn Captain Taylor the Medal of Honor 55 years later. Also, Dave Hill, along with several others, worked for years pushing for Taylor to be awarded the Medal of Honor. In this episode, I talked to Dave on a bus. A few weeks ago, we were on a trip through North Georgia with a few dozen descendants of 4 of the Andrews Raiders from the Civil War. Members of the Raiders were both our nation's first and most recent recipients of the Medal of Honor. 2 members, George Wilson and Philip Shadrach, were awarded the Medal of Honor on July 3rd of this year. This is Tomorrowtown, Tennessee.
First Infantry Division has had 38 recipients of the Medal of Honor since it was formed in 1917. Larry is, of course, the latest, number 38. Every Medal of Honor winner has a street named after him in the division's home at Fort Riley, Kansas. Larry's, it's a street renaming. The street's already got a name. Now it's being upgraded to an even better name, Larry Taylor Road, Street, Avenue, whatever it is. But it runs right alongside the airfield. So he's right at home with his fellow aviators.
He has, in the last few months, been inducted into different Hall of Fames, Aviation Hall of Fame. I mean, it's interesting. Heartbreaking in a lot of ways that he's not here to see all this, but at the same time interesting to see how people across the country are honoring someone that you knew for a very long time, and a lot of people in Chattanooga knew for a very long time. Just your thoughts on that, just kind of the fact that after all this is said and done, he's still being honored today.
I think Larry has become the pride of Chattanooga, along with Charles Coolidge, native-born Chattanoogans that when the nation called, they answered. So I think it'll always be an emotional thing for myself, for yourself, other people that knew and loved Larry, and that this recognition will keep on going on. It really won't die unless we let it die. So hopefully school kids, generations from now, will be reading about this brave guy.
Yeah. One of the things you told me this morning, we talked about this a little bit over the last little bit here, that Larry's co-pilot during the mission where he got the Medal of Honor, you were on the ground that night, picked up by Taylor and his co-pilot Joe Ratliff. And now there's a push. Larry wrote a letter to add to this packet before he passed to get Mr. Ratliff's medals upgraded as well. Tell me about that, where that process is, what's going on with that.
Yeah, we came back from Washington, D.C., and I had the honor of speaking at Larry's induction into the Hall of Heroes on the second day of the overall ceremony. We got back to Chattanooga. We had the Freedom Day Parade, last 9/11 last year. Larry was the Grand Marshal. I got to ride in the lead car with him. Well, I stayed at Larry's and Tony's house many, many nights, myself and my wife. I went in Larry and I said that we were just sitting there. I said, Larry, it's time we did something for J.O. Ratliff. He got nothing out of this. He never sought anything any more than you did, but that's okay. He's going to get something. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, traditionally in the military, the aircraft commander, whatever citation he receives, his co-pilot, including whether you're in a Phantom jet, 2-man aircraft, or a helicopter, gets 1 medal less. Arguably, he should get the same medal, but I think J.O. Ratliff would be pleased to get the Distinguished Service Cross, which is equivalent to the Navy Cross. And he said, "Okay, what do you need?" I said, "Well, I'll write a witness letter, pretty much what I wrote for you, because he was sitting 3 feet in front of you the whole time." I need a letter from you. And he said, there's my PC. Sit down, son. Take a letter. And so in the course of about 45 minutes, and Larry's a very smart guy, this just rolled out of him. And we did a little wordsmithing. We put it in a appropriate format, and that became part of the packet. And in addition to that, I got letters from 3 other pilots that flew with both Larry and Mr. Ratliff, Chief Warrant Officer Ratliff. And so I got there because what they demonstrated is a Cobra is a 2-man ship. You can fire your rockets. They just go wherever your angle of attack is with your aircraft. J.O. Ratliff was putting machine gun bullets within 15 to 20 meters of us because he could do that. That's how precise it was. So he did. He was on. He was the only other pilot that was on the ground. But he was not really recognized at all. So we're going to go for the Distinguished Service Cross. So I filed back in November of 2023 with the Department of the Army, same folks that I've dealt with for almost 6 years in Larry's case, and it's moving along good. They're very interested. They've got Larry's track record. They know where J.O. sat in relation to Larry, and they're constantly, whereas we had years of resistance, I'm in constant contact with them by telephone, by text, or by email. I had a meeting with them last week, a lady in the Pentagon, and the folks at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where they make the award decisions. And so it's moving along. I'm going to actually have a face-to-face. I'm driving from my home northeast of Cincinnati down to Fort Knox, Kentucky. About a 2-hour drive, but just like talking with you, there's no substitute for FaceTime. And so that's where it stands. But we hope to get that done pretty quickly.
How interesting is that? Like you said, that there was a time where they were hard to even communicate with, and now you've got phone numbers, you've got contacts, and I think it's interesting to see how that process has kind of gone full circle. Yeah,
it was a long fight. One of the problems was we'd give an answer, they would request information, we'd supply it. 6 months later, before we get an answer, and say, well, we need this. Another 6 months would pass. We'd go back and forth. And sometimes the questions to me showed, well, you haven't read what I already sent you because I addressed it. That's okay. I'm the one that's got to be advocate, it's not their job. So at any rate, now they know Larry's story so well, and some of the same case officers that worked on Larry's recommendation are the ones that are dealing with J.O. Ratliff now. And they thoroughly know that you and I have talked about the old Army promotional scheme, recruiting scheme, an army of one. It never made sense.
Right.
It's always a team effort. Right. In the case of the attack helicopter, pilot and co-pilot. And they don't have to talk to each other. They know what the other one's going to do. They anticipate what the other's going to do, and it'll get done. And that's the trust that Larry had with J.O. I think you may recall that Larry, J.O. said, okay, they're on. And Larry started lifting up and says, where are they? He said, well, I'm looking 2 muddy butts on the rocket pods facing backwards, and the other guys must be on the other side. They didn't know all 4 of us there, except they heard them tap on the fuselage. Right.
I mean, that was really the version I heard. They tapped, and so we knew we were good.
Right. Elevator going up, but J.O. was right there, and he was Larry's partner, and he was an excellent himself. Became an aircraft commander shortly after that. And he had a long and fruitful career in Washington, D.C. and federal government, and so this is something he's long deserved, and we're going to get it for him.
Yeah, and a great guy and an interesting guy. And what's interesting about, I think, with you specifically, what year did you leave the Army?
1969.
69. And so for you at this stage in your life to have been so involved in what you've been involved in, like you said, it took 6+ years to get Larry Taylor the Medal of Honor. You're working on this. You're speaking at events around the country. I think it's interesting, kind of like the season of your life that you're in right now. It seems like you're doing some really interesting work.
Yeah, it's like it became my new cause to live. I retired from manufacturing. I've been in that for 30 years, and just playing golf, goofing off generally, fishing, and we got this going, and all of a sudden it became an obsession to get it done. It became my new mission, and something I look forward to. Even though it took a while, communications were slow, the work was always there. And it wasn't just mine. We very quickly, early on, Senator Bob Corker assigned a staffer. She and I went over the regulations, saw what we needed to do, how we needed to do, what letters, where do they go. And then after that, though, there was so much to do. I sat down with General William Raines of Chattanooga, and he said, well, when you're in town, you got my building here, conference room, faxes, telephones, copiers, whatever you need, and you run the meetings in here. And so a lot of Chattanoogans are involved. Mike Holden, Carl Poston. Carl's been there right from the very, very beginning. And then and General Raines, of course, General Admiral Long, and then Mike, being a 1st Division soldier, took a particular interest in it, and he's very much an aficionado of the division and military history. So it was a good team, and we were up against it, but it didn't stop us.
It worked.
Worked.
Somehow, some way, it worked. What do you think it gives you to spend this time in your life kind of going back through your own personal history and American military history, for that matter, and making sure people who meant something to you along the way, you're part, a big part, of helping them kind of be remembered, be honored? What does it do for you?
Well, we had a guidance, as you will, in the 1st Division. Our motto was no mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great, duty first. And Larry and I first saw that when we walked in there for our assignment. It was a big old bridgeway we walked underneath. And Larry's own was leave no man behind. So the mine's kind of a combination, and also part of the U.S. Army, what's called a Ranger Creed. Though I be the last survivor, I will endeavor and have the fortitude to complete my way to the Ranger objective. And so it became on me. My teammates, Billy Kahn was killed, lost with his entire team, 6 guys, and 4 helicopter pilots and crewmen that tried to extract him. And that could have been our fate, but they lost their whole team. And Paul Elsner, our team leader, Bob Elsner, and Gerald Patty from Maryville, Tennessee, they died of cancer in 2010 and 2015. So I'm the only one left, and the only one who was left to reside, and only J.O. Radcliffe and Larry Taylor. One of the other co-pilots got killed in action in September of '68, about 4 months after this. So it was on me, and had it been on Larry, I know he would have done the same thing. But he couldn't be part of this. We had to have his support group, if you will, which myself and the people in Chattanooga, people like yourself, to keep that alive and expose people for probably the first time. Oh yeah, Larry Taylor, oh yeah, a good businessman. He put a roof on my house or on my building, he's got the sheet metal shop. His daddy had it before him. And he did all this other crazy stuff in Vietnam. Who would have thought? Because Larry never talked about it. And he was a man of many interests, truly a Renaissance man. Very well educated, great businessman, very successful, very much a philanthropist through the community. And his story needed to be told. And also, it's a very unique one. Nobody had ever extracted a team of infantry on the outside of an attack helicopter, which is designed to carry 2 people. It's never been done before, but Larry said, it doesn't mean it can't be done, and I'm going to do it. And he did it. And that story needs to get out there. So hopefully some other commander, officer, an NCO in a decision situation will have the same audacity that Larry did. He says, I got to get the job done because somebody needs to do it. I'm here, it's on me. And I think that his community, and now the nation, and now probably internationally, it's known.
A big thank you to my friend Dave Hill for this conversation on Morrowtown, Tennessee. This podcast is a production of News Channel 9, Fox Chattanooga, and Sinclair Broadcast Group Chattanooga. I hope you join me again real soon.